so we're ready. We will call the Sunnyvale 4B Economic Development Board meeting for Tuesday, October 11th to order at 5:33 p.m. First is public comments. There's nobody present to comment. Anybody online? Anybody online?
We're not doing Zoom anymore.
Okay, good. So, no public comment. All members present except member LaShane. First, discuss, consider, and act upon the minutes from September 13th, 2022. Everybody have an opportunity to review. They looked good to me, unless anybody spotted something.
I make a motion.
Motion to approve by member Padmanabhan, seconded by member Nair. All those in favor? Approved. Move on to number 2, discuss, consider, and act upon September 2022 financial reporting and related items.
Okay, good evening. As of September 30th, you had month-to-date revenues of $120,050.12, month-to-date expenses of $86,635.04, bringing your year-to-date revenue total to $1,202,060.72, and your year-to-date expenses to $685,205.34. Your sales tax recorded year-to-date is $1,191,091.04, and that does reflect 10 months of actual sales tax receipts. Year-to-date interest earned is $10,969.68. Your month-to-date expenses include your routine payroll. You had your monthly landscape maintenance and some irrigation repairs at the Four Corners, a couple of subscription renewals, and a marketing campaign renewal, the Choose Texas marketing campaign. Weed control at the parks. We painted some equipment and structures at Town Center Park. Paid for some professional services for the Rails to Trails grant application, and some professional services for work done by the architecture on the Glacier Barn project. As of 9/30/2022, you have total revenues of $1,202,061 and total expenditures of $685,205, bringing your total fund balance as of 9/30 to $3,536,315. These numbers are reflective as of September the 30th for where we are right now. Please keep in mind that we're still processing invoices for last year. Those run a little bit behind, as well as sales tax receipts. You still have another 2 months of actual sales tax receipts that are not reflected in these numbers. So for next month, when we present the October financials, we'll also give you an update on where we are as of September the 30th. For those numbers will change when we receive those sales tax receipts and as we continue to pay invoices.
Thank you. Sales tax on page 13 continues to significantly outpace previous years, so that's another positive sign.
The payment for professional service for the Glacier Barn project, is that related to something we're gonna talk about later tonight?
It was an invoice for services that they had rendered so far, the work that they have done. Komatsu invoices the town once a month based on what professional services they provided with respect to the fire station and also the barn project. So this was the most recent invoice that we received. I don't know that it's necessarily related to the item that's coming up later.
Okay, I was just curious what they've been doing on it.
We can certainly get a copy of that invoice and have it for you all at the next meeting so you can see.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see,
Just curious
Sure.
what the
yeah.
breakdown was.
Because it looks like, just looking back in the numbers, was it 12,920 to them?
It was for
$920.
$920. But year-to-date on the project, the expenses are $40,320.
Yeah, could we
Yep.
see what
Absolutely.
we've spent $40,000 on the barn project so far this year?
We can either bring those to you all at the next meeting, or we can share that information with Burton, and then he can share it with the board.
Okay, thank you.
Good question.
40,000. I didn't see any action there.
If y'all can, just remember, if you're gonna speak into the microphone, you may have to turn your mic on. This thing, new system we have won't pick it up, so.
Any other questions on the September finances? So it was only the baker's ribs that went through last month that posted through on the report?
That was all that we had received at that time
Right.
to hit the September financials. However, since that time, we have received an additional one, but that will be reflected in your update because it was actually paid in the month of October. We posted it, these items that are still applicable to, the prior year will get
Right.
posted in the correct year, however they get paid in the new year. But, so that'll be reflected on your update for next month.
Okay. Or any other questions? Can I get a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve the financial statements for September 2022.
Motion made,
I second it.
made by member Anthony, seconded by member Pad Manabon. All those in favor? And passes. So, on to number 3, discuss, consider updates of the following ongoing projects, which, number 1 is Glacier Park, so. Can you remind me so going back to the Komatsu professional services, I know there was a split between the fire station and, I guess we'll just have to wait till we see how they broke it out.
Okay, they do. Komatsu will, when they invoice us, they break out that part that is related to the barn, and then that part that's related to the fire station. And if we go back and look and doesn't appear like they've provided enough detail, then we can certainly reach out to them and have them, maybe give us a little bit more
Okay.
in support of that invoice.
I couldn't remember if it was just like a split percentage and we just picked up X percentage, or if it was actual line item.
I have to look at that invoice, yeah.
So we're gonna cover Glacier here another few steps down the road. Burton and I did meet with a contractor that put together a bid/estimate for doing a different structure. I wanted to pass this out to everybody, just So you have a copy to review. This doesn't really give you a visual picture of what it might look like, but dollar-wise, the day that we met with this contractor, they're with Christian Brothers Welding Services. His name's Cody Wampler, and he's worked for the town of Sunnyvale in the past. So he went out and looked at the site in its current condition, and what we discussed with him was, you know, what could be done to maintain the visions of the horses being on the property. So this breaks it down to demo, site prep, doing 2 different stables positioned on the property. Burton can articulate that better than I can, in such a way that it helps kind of shield the facilities, so from the road and everything, you're looking at the buildings instead of the interior. One of them having 12 runs and stalls, second building having 10, so for a total of 22. You wouldn't necessarily have to do both, but to do them with a 10 by 10 stall and if I'm reading this, 22 foot or a 12-foot run, so it's a 22-foot length altogether. You know, it ends up being a pretty nice facility for less than we were looking at before. Also still running plumbing and electrical, still concrete for the perimeter, so the whole structure would be, you know, anchored in concrete, but the floors for the horses would still be dirt, concrete for the tack room. When you add it all up, it came in at a little over $617,000, and he lined it all out, and then it gives you the outside shape of the building. So this is a solid metal building with runs that go out for each individual stall. All the gates, all the, you know, turnkey operation, turn it over, and the concrete work to go with it. But this isn't full parking lot and all that kind of stuff. It's demolishing, removing what's there, putting in a fully functioning system.
And then what, total of 22 stalls?
Right,
Okay, that's good.
if you did both
Both.
stable buildings. So 10 by 10 tack room, 12 stalls, 10 by 10, and then the runs are actually 22 feet long, so I quoted that wrong, so they're 32 feet when you add it onto the end of the stall. So each horse has, or if you have 2 in a run, I guess you could, but
Do you have pictures of what these look like?
not yet. He sent me some just by text, so I could print them off and show you, but I should have prepared it so it would have been available for viewing.
But this includes everything, the site work, demo, all of that sort of prep of the area it would go in. It's just not the extra things like parking lot, correct?
Correct. So here's one with the runs, covered section, and then the indoor section. But again, that's not a great picture, so we need to provide it so everybody can see it.
That gives an idea, but yeah, it'd be great to see some other pictures.
But when we sat down with him, again, Burton can state as well, he knew a lot, he does these things all the time, so he knew dimensions, and when he went out on the site and looked at it, he had a lot better vision of what it should look like in alignment with what Burton presented to him compared to the original plan, so. So it gives us something to look at and consider, and
And this is pretty close to the budget we have too, right?
it's over by 600 or 117,000.
But it's also,
But it's also
Larger.
larger
Yeah,
in terms
it's
of
larger,
total
yeah.
stables.
It's doing, we have 22.
They took into
stable.
account how many horses are out there now, so he was looking at replacing what was there. So that's why with the two different buildings, if you needed to, you could scale it down.
Mhm.
And all of this could be converted in the future if for some reason, at some point, it was deemed no longer to be a horse facility. It could be converted into, maintenance facility, storage for the parks and recs, who knows, but there's all sorts of different uses that it could easily be converted to be used
But
if necessary.
just by removing all the stalls from it.
Right. Yep.
Is it, I'm not an expert, but the construction drawing, is that fairly,
That's basically his cost for building it, managing and building it.
okay.
So he would be the site manager, coordinating all the work and providing all the supplies and the person in charge for each individual contractor on site.
Got it.
So if we did something like this, would we be required, though, to upgrade the parking area?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's still, all of that stuff's still gonna have to be done out there from a, I mean, I still think a lot of that would still have to be done.
That's where it's, once we have our working session with council and talk through it and have the other staff members present that can say legally, if you were just replacing what was there and it's not a public facility, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
This would be required if it's gonna be something that any resident that wants to go walk through the place, since it's financed by the town, does it, But at least it gives us something else to look at other than the
Yeah,
first
good
floor.
starting point.
Okay.
We were going to organize a meeting with the Glacier Park Committee and us, right?
So we're still, that's gonna be planned, but it's on hold until council finishes a few things and makes a few other decisions that with the new town manager, and once that's accomplished, then we're supposed to move forward with some of these things.
And how long is that expected? 2 months, 3 months? Don't know.
I know that right now we've been, certainly the thing that's coming up tonight, the next item after this presentation, we're also working on some tax increment reinvestment zone, some maps. We're working with a consultant, and there is those have to be established before the end of the calendar year. So we're trying to get everything that we need to get done to the consultant and still have time. There's only 4 council meetings scheduled between now and the end of the year, calendar year. And so once those reinvestment zones are established, it's 2 readings by ordinance, so 2 separate meetings on that. The town manager's aware that these are the things that you all are wanting to meet with, but he also needs to meet with council and have discussion on that before we could get a timing. So we actually had our town council meeting last night got canceled. We had just some, we didn't have a quorum, so. But anyways, it's not forgotten. I understand y'all are asking for these meetings, and I know, so.
Okay.
As far as a time frame, I don't want to commit to a date, so.
Understood.
A quick question, the electrical, I know they said the price is from the existing main power pole. Did he give any indication if it would require an upgrade, or was it just assumed that it was good to run from there?
I'd have to confirm what he means by existing main power pole. I'm assuming it's the primary pole for the,
Well, yeah, but if it does require an upgrade, I don't know if he gave any thought into, yeah, we can do it from there, or it might require an upgrade, and that's not included in the price.
lined out there, not included, so, yeah, we'd have to find out if it was required to update. So obviously, they're replacing all the electrical from the main power out, so
For the fire
you have to see
station?
if the,
For the fire station?
no, this is just for the, stables.
Okay, so they didn't do any electrical upgrade for the current project, I guess is what I'm getting at, that he's
Not
tying
that
into?
I'm aware of, no.
Okay, so it could still be kind of up in the air on that one.
So it'd be preferred to have it come into an underground transformer than, so that would cost, you'd have to have Encore, pay them to run underground from access at the road to wherever the transformer would be installed. But typically, that's not very much. For a short, semi-short run. Anything else on Glacier? We're gonna cover it quite a bit in just a minute. Did quite a bit on other locations. Receiving quite a bit of positive feedback on Rails to Trails. People are excited about the section behind the school, which is the only section that actually has pavement on it, but been seeing a number of people walking dogs and riding bikes and on the sections when you guys get them mowed, so.
Are we done with Glacier Park? Because
What's that?
I have a question on the cost estimates to develop the trail from Spring Lake Estates.
Well, we're gonna cover that
Oh, we're gonna cover
in the next line item specifically in
Okay.
Glacier, so. Liked seeing the poles go up, so that was a nice surprise, as quick after our last meeting as they started going up. So with the flag sticking out of the side, is there still measurements, or are those some sort of standard now that we know what to order for that type of setup?
The system they used is all adjustable, so we have submitted choices to the town manager,
Okay.
and he's gonna go over them and get back to me, most likely this week.
Choices for,
The banners, what he wants them to
Okay.
look like.
So when you went to the Stony Creek gated HOA, do you know how that was received by that community?
Uh,
Trails.
As far as, I didn't stick around for the entire meeting, just because it was the annual part and they had some other stuff. You know, I presented a presentation to them, also showed the original, the approved concept plan for their landscape and open space plan that showed all the trails. There was one resident that, felt like that we had removed a tree on the corner of their property. JD and I went out there the next day and looked, and in fact, it was it's part of the HOA's planned trail connection. It's basically in that section that goes from the gated to the ungated, and someone did remove and stump grind to make that trail connection, but it wasn't our contractor. And so, because those trees were removed, it did expose the northwest corner of their property. You know, I think the word was that the contractor said that they were doing it on behalf of the town, but that we didn't have stump grinding or any kind of removal like that in our scope of work with ours. So ours was strictly trimming the canopy up to 12 to 15 feet and 8 feet left or right of the rail bed. So
yes, the primary question is, you know, was it positive after you presented what the difference between the
yeah, I didn't.
HOA trail system and the
Yeah.
Rails to Trail system?
I don't recall anything negative. Do you, JD? It was more just information sharing. You know, we did share the resolution that town council had passed for alternative routes that would be explored outside of the gated. You know, I did forward that. The HOA manager asked that I send that to him. I feel confident that the information that was presented was true and accurate, and hopefully that helps moving forward. So.
And on development construction, I noticed just south of O'Reilly's over there, dirt work started, so. Is that the medical office?
Yes.
Is there anything else in there, or is it all just medical office?
I'm not sure. I think right now it's going to be a shell. I think they've got some ideas of what they want, but I'm not 100%. They've got their tenants lined out yet.
So I know it's been brought up before in our meeting, but it's outside of our budget. But now that the street lights have gone up, I can't tell you how many people have asked, when are they gonna put those power lines underground? So, just for future reference, it would be nice, since we're requiring the new neighborhoods to put all their power underground, that if we're doing a project, maybe we try to incorporate that into the project, so it is, I can't tell you, I mean, it was probably one person a day asked me that. Anything else on the updates for parks before we move on to the next item? Or developments? So I know we requested last month that we potentially have an executive session to discuss some land acquisition opportunities, and it's not on here, but it's not anything we can discuss openly. So, yeah, we'll have to hold off on that, but we do want that on the agenda. Aren't any other questions? We'll move on to item number 4, discuss, consider, act upon recommendations to construct a trail connecting along Tripp Road, which is all in Glacier Park. Or Glacier property.
All right. I think everybody's familiar with this. This is just the overall aerial of the Glacier property. So this is a little background. This is the trail that we applied for last year through Texas Parks and Wildlife, through their small community grant program. Last year, that was a $367,000 project. The grant was for $150,000, and there was a match of $217,000, and it was not recommended for funding. Just some photos. Some of these photos were from our grant application, but I wanted to just include these for everyone to see. That first one's Jobson Road. The next one is Tripp. This is the Falls Trail connection there, looking north from Tripp Road. And then the Stony Creek Trail connection looking south back towards the falls. This is Spring Lake Estates looking south from Virgil. And looking south. And then the other one was just there at the property where that trail dead ends, next to the fence. A few more photos here. So this project would add approximately 2,045 linear feet of trail along Jobson and Tripp. It, Spring Lake Estates as well as the falls, those are 8-foot concrete trails, so, this would be the, same width. It would extend from Spring Lake Estates to the fire station and eastward to the falls trail connection. There's 2 areas where, there's some culverts that are on Trip that, drain into the Glazier property, so, we would have a few areas that we would have to work out on that, to prevent, the grade is, I don't know if you can see in this mouse here, but, I started to draw on this, but my drawing skills are not real good, so, just if you follow the cursor there where that, willow tree is, that's one of the drainages. And then down here where these other willow trees are, that's the other drainage area.
And that's where that big grape pipe sticks up out of the ground there?
Right. It's just a stormwater overflow. It's kind of I think it's probably a 10 or 12 inch, it's a flapper valve is what it is down
okay.
there. So, yeah, it's down here in that cluster of trees. Walking this side, it looks like there was 3 willow trees down here in the drainage itself that would have to probably be removed. One of them's leaning pretty good anyways, but that's kind of the alignment that it would go. Significant utilities out there in the bar ditch next to Trip. So that's the reason for pushing this back off the road about 30 feet from the existing fence. So this would be the connection here where the cursor is, but this is the kind of the connectivity. Again, excuse the drawing skills here. I just want to try to show visually how these connections work out, as far as being able to access, Spring Lake Estates, the Falls, Stony Creek, and Homestead over here as well. I didn't include, what is it? Sorry, my mind went blank. Okay, Paul, what is that? Meadow
Lake.
Meadow Lake, sorry. Meadow Lake there. So
you go back to that slide that was from the grant application. And the red line, unless you're gonna talk through this, I guess, because this also includes the fence, right?
yeah, the red line would pretty much represent where the fence would be.
Okay.
I mean,
I
it's
get
not, this drawing is not to scale by any means, so.
So the fence is a pipe fence, safe for horses, that goes all the way around the thing, that is aesthetically pleasing and matches what the fire station's already doing. My understanding was one of the reasons this is being presented to us now and was gonna be presented to council last night was that the construction people on site doing the fire station are already gonna be doing the fencing and work for the fire station and need to do the sidewalks for the fire station, and said that they could save cost if they went ahead and did the trail and the fence for the park section at the same time. So this is something we've been wanting to do since we bought the property. So I'm for it. But you mentioned 30 feet behind the current fence or 30 feet from the road?
Well, it would be 30 feet. It'd be 30 feet from the existing fence that's there now.
So the existing feet's probably 15 feet off the road?
Yeah, it's not far.
It's more than 10 feet though.
More than 10, it's at least 15, 20.
So I'm just-
It's very deceptive because it goes down.
Right.
Okay? So it is.
So we
most-
can't, so there's a 12-inch Dallas, or North Texas water line right here where this blue, or
Right.
it's kinda in that general area.
I guess what I was just gonna articulate is if it's 30 feet behind the existing fence, that could be up to 45, 50 feet off the road, which significantly, potentially impacts the plans for doing anything with horses.
Right.
If you cut off a third of their,
It's 0.98 acres. If you take from this point here down, if you come off of this, it's
okay, so
it's
it can't,
1,430 linear feet
yeah, it can't be
times-
that far then, so.
times 30 feet, and that gives you 0.98 acres. That's the grazing real estate that you would lose
so
from
it's
the
not
existing
that
fence.
bad. But this picture looks okay. When you went to the picture that you drew,
That was good.
you were pretty far inside the,
Yes,
Which one?
the one you were showing, 30 feet.
which I
inside.
know, like you said, drawing with the
Right.
mouse is a little hard.
This
The
one.
next one down. The one with the red all over it. Yeah, so when you look at that one,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
you're way inside the, I mean, you're going right,
Sorry.
you're going behind the fire station almost.
No, that's that's just to visually see
Still trying to
the connection.
visualize 30 feet behind the existing fence. So it must not be behind the existing fence, because that would be,
I guess the goal would be to keep as much grazing property as
That's important.
possible,
Right.
yeah.
Right, so
Right now, there are 22 horses, right? They gotta be-
at the same time, you want it far enough off the road that somebody goes off the road, you know. Of course,
So-
it's better than right now when people are trying to jog on the road,
Right.
jump in the ditch to miss getting.
So the trail itself would be, if the pipe fence came in at approximately, I just said 30 foot to
So that's the
to
fence,
use a
not the
round
trail.
number. So if
Okay.
the fence goes in at 30 feet, then you've probably got a 5-foot
Right,
buffer between the fence and where the sidewalk, where the trail starts.
okay,
There's an 18.
And that's just for, when I was out there the other day and walked all of this, every horse out there came up to me wanting food.
right.
So,
The 30 foot is to the fence, not to the trail.
correct.
Okay, okay. So that's also.
So the trail itself is probably more like 25 to
Okay.
That's not bad.
22 feet from the existing fence.
And are we planning to meander it like this?
Yes.
So it's not a, yeah,
Yeah, what we were really trying to do is,
it's utilities and,
correct. And then this grade right here, aside from those two drainage areas, there would be minimal grading work because we don't want our trail to have standing water on it.
right.
So it's it's not a super high point, but it's not a low spot either, other than those two.
And then the 420, is that all-inclusive with the fire station, or is that separate from the fire station? I saw 3 something on a different slide.
I think
Yeah,
an
that was
earlier
the
quote.
the grant application that we did a year ago. You talking about this number here, the 367?
Right.
So it's,
That was the grant, so now it's for whatever, but if we do this, we're paying for the sections that are off fire station property, right?
correct, it doesn't include,
Main
this doesn't include the fire station.
And this is pipe fencing around the entire thing,
That whole
correct?
red line that you said.
The unit cost that I got right now is the fire station pipe fence starts right here where the cursor is and goes down. So that section is for for that 1,430 linear feet that goes from this point down to here. It didn't include this. These were just, originally, when we did this, this is a picture from the grant application. This was barbed wire, is what these originally were. Not including this area, but,
So it includes, for us, what we're talking about right now is just from, I always want to say behind Mark's house. So the falls to the edge of the fire station where the corner is. So 4B is,
yes, it's just this section here along Trip, from the corner of the fire station there down to the falls.
and then the town budget, you know, it's all town money, but the town budget pays for the box around number 1,
Mm-hmm.
but nothing going north.
Yeah, there's not anything that I'm aware of right now.
So that would be something that we could potentially add, but until we know what we're doing with the, I think it would be nice to go ahead and do it up to the point where it turns a 90-degree and goes towards the proposed horse thing, and then pick it back up. But if we don't know exactly what the footprint's gonna do,
Mm-hmm.
might be getting ahead of ourselves, but it would be. So how much of the 420 not expected is supposed to be 4B, and how much of it?
I think at this point it would probably come from that Glacier, it would come out of that money that's budgeted for the Glacier capital improvements.
So, again, my question, and this is where, you know, and we were gonna have this discussion last night with council, is I support it myself. It's something we've wanted to do since acquiring the property several years ago. But from the 290-degree angles on the fence inward, since the town took that property to put the fire station in, it seems like if I bought that and put a house on it, I'd be required to pave that myself. So to me, budget-wise, I could articulate why the town fire station budget needs to pay for that section of the sidewalk and the fence, and 4B picks up everything else going east and going north from the fire station property. And then we need to have our meeting with council and have open minds over that $500,000 budget, because that was set when we purchased the property as well, and everything has gone up in price. So
Right,
trying to hold us to a $500,000 budget, either tell us you're not doing the horse thing, get over it, move on with other plans, or have a logical conversation that costs have gone up on everything, and figure out the right thing to do with the horse facility and get it over with and move on so we can get on to other things.
Has the fire station ended up at the same cost it was originally budgeted?
I don't know, so.
Also, when we talked about the trail portion of this property, we had talked in our meetings a long time ago, but we were considering keeping the trails as a separate line item, not having it come from the Glacier, from the horse budget, having it come from a trail budget. So I don't think that if we do this, I don't think that the 420 should or however much it ends up being, should necessarily come from the Glacier budget.
And
I know it's semantics,
when we
but
talked about it last week, and what I was planning on talking with council last night about was, so, because I was grappling with in my head. So we have the $500,000 that's already approved in the budget for next year. As a line item, the $500,000 doesn't specifically say horse facility, it says
Right.
Glacier Park improvements. So the agreement that I would wanna come up with is kind of, or understanding, whatever you wanna call it, is okay, within our budget for next year, we can afford to do this, but if we need to amend the budget higher in order to move forward with doing the horse facilities or whatever else needs to be done at Glacier, we need to have that flexibility and approval to do so. So we have the funding already. We can afford to do it within our forecasted budget.
I think the reason for doing it was that the trail system is planned no matter what, whereas the horse facility's always been an if. And so the trail system plan has been something that exists outside of Glacier and the horses. So I think that's the main reason we had discussions about having it be a separate line item. But also my concern at this point is if we spend, 400,000 of that initial 500,000 budget, then there's going to be an argument at some point from someone that says, well, you used most of your budget on the trail and we can't afford the horse facility anymore. So
Right.
just, I feel defensive of that $500,000, trying
Yeah,
to
I
just keep
understand
that
that as
for
well.
the barn.
Because you couldn't even afford to finish fencing it within 500,000
Right.
or doing anything else.
And we talked about pushing this portion off later and doing the horse facility first and then coming up with a budget for the trail
No,
later, so.
Question on this. Why this project came as a priority right now? We are still discussing the other one, like, the horse facility. Like, if you only have 500K in there and we're still debating on that, what is the need of putting another 420 worth of project in to add confusion to this?
Well, I think Burton had mentioned that they're about to pour the sidewalk, and so coming up with a plan on this would be a cost savings if they did it all.
But that is okay. It's,
So-
again, like, I had this conversation 3-4 months ago, and then today we are again discussing.
Yeah.
It's no point in we wasting time on this. Let us, president-wise, need to go and talk to the council and discuss, as you mentioned, like, let us take a logical decision, have a conversation on this, like, rather than we just talk about it. It's been going on for almost a year now, right,
Mhm.
this discussion back and forth.
And so back to my comment about the line item in the budget, I fully agree with you on the 500,000 that it was originally planned for. That was the budget for improving the park for the horse facility, separate from whatever park stuff we did. And I'm sure we can go back and pull that in terms of agreement and details. But the way the budget is set, it's not written that way. So the 500,000 that's been approved can be used for anything if, and this is another option, if we say, no, we don't want to use it out of that 500, then we have to approve it as a project, and it has to go to multiple votes, and which seems like the right way to do it. But it delays it a couple of months, and they're planning on doing the fence and the sidewalk for the fire station like next week. So this is the reason it came to us now, kind of like when we bought the property.
Mm-hmm.
It was something that was brought to us that needs to happen now because now's the time that we can do it versus going, oh yeah, this is what we wanted to do, but let's dot the i's and cross the t's and do it. So either way, it can be done and be done legally and properly and everything. One way eats into that 500,000, and then we have to approve a secondary, another 500 or whatever you want to do for the, and the 500 obviously isn't enough to do the horse facility. So that conversation needs to be had, but that's where I think we need to have the two conversations. I fully support doing this. I'd rather it be a separate line item. But as long as we get the approval that we're gonna have a logical conversation and move forward with setting whatever the new budget is for Glacier moving forward.
Yeah, I guess I'm more suspicious of having a logical conversation about what's gonna happen with Glacier in the future, so, that's my hesitation. Also, when I talked to you, Burton, I wondered if they could give us a sense of how much are we saving by, this isn't the way we like to make decisions. It's a big project, and to have, 20 minutes to discuss it isn't a lot of time to mull it over. Did they mention, what are the cost savings we're expecting by doing it this way?
Well, I don't know that that I can give you a number of what we would expect to save, but, you know, the company, contractors are gonna be there. There's some mobilization costs that would be saved, because they're already gonna be there. They're gonna have their contractor doing flat work, the actual pour. You know, I know that just even with some of our other road projects right now, there's vendors that we're working with that are having trouble getting materials to do the job, and they're delaying those. So there's some things like that. As far as hard cost, I'm not sure. You know, roughly, I mean, just from the looking at that one slide that was back here, you know, 367.10, it's what, 11% roughly, increase in cost from a year ago. I know some of the costs are going down. There is a pretty healthy contingency in here, so at 7%, but I can't. I can't give you an exact number tonight. No.
So ultimately, what it might not be the case, but because this was gonna be presented to town council last night. They haven't seen it until whoever's watching today. Well, they may have received it in advance copy, you know, but they haven't voted on it. But what it appears is the contractor made the opportunity. And it's something we should have been discussing as a town for months if we understood that the fire station was gonna be doing this stuff.
See,
And then the other option is not do any of it. I don't know if that's an option for the fire station until we talk through the whole project and say, you know, because there's a fence around the back of the fire station right now, but it's not the desired fence.
see, my recollection is the last time we discussed this, there was some mention about us applying for a grant to do the trail. What is the status on that?
That one got declined.
Oh, it got declined?
So that was
How
the,
much was that for?
that was the previous slide, the 367 with the matching of 140, yeah, the 150.
Oh, so the grant was for 150 with town matching 270.
And with this type
So
of
why wouldn't
trail,
we do the same thing here?
right, well, with this
We'll
type of
cop-
trail and Texas Parks and Wildlife grants, you can retroactively apply. So we could reapply even
Mhm.
after the trail's completed for a window of time.
So the town match was what, condition on getting the grant or what?
No, there's no, that, where it says
The
town match,
217.
that was how much 4B was proposing that we would
We
pay
would,
for
okay.
this whole thing.
But that was over and above the 500,000, right?
Right. That was the idea at the time.
Mhm.
So again, as a project, I'm in favor of it and would love to see it done next week, you know?
Yeah.
Would love to seen it done 3 years
Why
ago.
don't we go that way, then?
Hmm?
Let's amend our budget or whatever we gotta do to make it a project. Let's go that way. I think this gives the opportunity for people to utilize the trail system that otherwise don't
It's
get
not
to.
being used right now, yeah.
And I think, it would be supported by the town, so I'm totally in favor of that as well.
Yeah.
But then that
Moving
would
forward
put
as a- with a
the
separate
barn
budget.
project on hold.
No, it doesn't put the barn project on hold. It leaves the 500,000 earmarked where
Mhm.
we would vote for a new project.
Mm-hmm.
It would delay construction
But it could,
by a few months,
okay.
but not,
60 days.
yeah.
Okay.
60 days.
And the reason this is coming to you all the way it is because 60 days, the contractor, the construction manager at risk will be finished with the fire station. They're actually supposed to, unless something's changed, I believe they're supposed to occupy the building in December.
If we did it that way, could we get a second bid on it?
Sure, we could.
Yeah.
We could request bids.
Even if we approve this today, it has to still go to the city council, right?
Correct. Either way, if we said, yeah, we'd approve it within our current budget, they still have to vote on it? Or if we say, well, we'd prefer not, because ultimately it's their decision,
And the next council
but we
meeting,
vote to approve it as a separate line item, then it has the 60 days.
I'm in favor of moving it as a separate project. Because this entire horse trial, I mean, there was another meeting over here, people were, of course, many of them are very emotional about it and all those kind of things. We don't want to put this 420 in and then give a reason to put the other project on hold. That is going to make a whole lot of people unhappy, so let us put this as a separate project and let us see what city council say about it.
We can't move forward and approve it tonight, can we, since it's not an action item?
We can we approve to make it a budget, project? Because what we would be doing was, we can't approve it as it is, but we can basically call it a project, and then it has to get 2 more readings, and then we approve it.
Yeah, we have to have a public hearing, has to be noticed in the paper, which would be the next meeting
November.
in November. And then, goes to council.
I'm fine with that. It sounds like that's what everybody's articulated.
Yep,
I
I'm
think
good
so
with
too.
that. I'm good with that.
It'll be a positive for the community as a whole, that's for sure.
So we can't make a motion or do anything like that, just except to give Burton direction to put it on the next agenda as a public hearing and that sort of thing?
Well, this says, discuss, consider, and act upon recommendation to construct a trail. So it's already on the agenda. So all we're doing is, we would approve the recommendation as a separate project.
And we would get another quote.
I'm just gonna interrupt here for a minute, just to say something with respect to the budget and the line item for Glacier right now at $500,000. As long as your fund balance allows it, you can always come back during the course of the year and make an amendment to that line item. So I don't want you to think that just because you have the $500,000 in there, and if you were to spend $400,000 for the trail, that you could not come back during the year and amend that budget and ask to increase that particular line item for a Glacier project from $500,000 to, $900,000 or $1 million, depending on what council approves.
Which I believe we would have to do that if we do it as a separate project, correct?
You would also have to do that if you did it as a separate project too. Mhm. But I just didn't want you to think that you were limited to that $500,000.
No, we tried actually, there was enough hearings about this topic and council was very adamant that they don't want to spend more than 500K on this, right? So
But now
it's
the
going to
costs
be an
have
uphill
gone up
battle
now.
anyway, so there is a provision out there, we can request it, but if the city council is not going to agree to that, there is no point in going, trying
Right,
it
would be
again.
subject to approval, you're correct.
So we go this as a separate project and we'll see how it goes.
And I still think that it's more appropriate under Parks and Trails. When we're looking historically back at, or someone else is looking back at what we spent, I think that, again, we would be doing this as part of the trail connectivity project, really, more than
Right.
Glacier, so I think it's more appropriate to go there if we can.
Right, because to your point, then the 500 is for the horse, preferably, is what everybody was wanting to do.
Mhm.
And then if that eventually goes away, then we have to come up with a budget for whatever we're gonna do with the internals of the park. So, hopefully we can do both. Cool.
I think we should do both.
Also, just clarifying something else too. I know this, on this picture here, the original grant application for that 367, that was for, I believe was it 5 strands, JD, or was it 6? Barbed wire fence and post. So they're 5 strand. So you're gonna get price increase on that because you're going from barbed wire to pipe, so.
Okay.
That was for the whole
Yeah, the
entire red, right.
For the barbed wire, yes.
Yeah.
So I just want to point that out, so.
Hmm.
I know this drawing here is I thought it was gonna be easier to show this for reference, but, I'll do a different picture next time, so.
What's that green line? Can you, oh, there it is, trash receptacle, no,
Sewer.
existing 8-inch sewer pipe, okay.
Seems
So
like you need a 3D
post-construction of
picture.
So how do we
of the walkway, can we still go and apply for a grant, or what?
Yes.
We can?
Yeah.
Oh, that,
Yeah, so this
Well, we
does not
should keep that
preclude us
option
from
open, right?
applying for grants from multiple sources, even if we've already done it. So some of them, you can retro up to 36 months,
oh,
are the ones you have to get approved in advance. But there's tons of grants
Do we
out
have to
there.
make a motion?
so we should make
Yeah,
that
it
a
says-
priority as well.
I think we
right?
do to get it
Apply for
as a separate project, act upon recommendation,
Okay.
approve the recommendation to not exceed $420,000.
Let's see. How do we word?
And that's for the total project, and we have to understand what the split is for the fire station, so
Hmm.
Well,
I could still say not to exceed.
Yeah, I mean, if we go there, I think we're covered.
we're not approving it as presented.
No, I mean, I think your motion needs to be, if it's to declare it a project and go through the public hearing process and
Well, yeah, then we can
budget.
narrow down the details.
Yeah.
And Trib, and what's the neighborhood right there where you're in, where it dead ends?
Spring Lake?
Spring Lake.
Spring Lake, yeah.
And fencing? Do we need to say all that? Change Spring Lake and Falls. A separate project? Declare the trail connection and fencing between Jobson, or between Spring Lake and the Falls a separate project? Do we say anything?
Not to exceed.
Not to exceed. Bert, will you correct me if I'm wrong? Right, so I make a motion to declare the trail connection between Spring Lake and the Falls a separate project not to exceed $420,000.
And Jobson and Fall, so, yeah.
Seconded. That's all right.
Motion made by member Anthony, seconded by member Cash. All those in favor? Passes. So threw me off there because I wasn't thinking of the corner. Cool. Then next is discuss future agenda items. So we do want to have our land purchase meeting. But based on what we're looking at, it needs to be an executive session meeting. Still want to have our joint meetings with council to move forward on planning this stuff. So if I understand it, town manager is going to pick a few standard banners, and then once we know what those are, then we can pick from there, or what's the part on them?
Discussion in our meeting today is he told me to come back to him with one banner. So I've got a whole list of banners that me and a couple other of the employees are gonna go through, and we're gonna pick the one we think is best and take it to him for approval.
And then last month you said that you had the local guy that could print them and all that. So this is, he's just picking the
Yes, sir.
blank,
Yes, sir.
and then okay.
I got a question on, I'm not sure which is, there was one of this project that presented sometime back to build 2 soccer fields, and there is a cricket field in the middle. That's on the.
So that's Samuel Farms,
Samuel
and
Farms,
we're still
south.
in limbo with Dallas, right? Waiting to move forward on,
There is a minor,
Yeah, the-
okay,
the
there's an
t-
update here. There is a association called North Texas Cricket Association. They, reached out to me and they are interested in putting a proposal in front of the city, saying that they have some interest in, because they want to promote cricket game in town. And they're willing to come up with some kind of a proposal where they're willing to participate in the pitch build-out cost. And they're willing to hold cricket camps for community and kids throughout the year, introduce cricket to the school boards and to sports programs in this area and things like that. They send me a big proposal, so I like, what do I do? Just tell them to send it to Burden? Okay.
JD.
Oh, okay. When is this originally planned? Is it next year
So
or
the
2014? Or 2024?
issue is
sorry.
we're still trying to figure out the trust agreement and
Oh, okay.
what the agreement is with the town of Sunnyvale and Dallas and the trust,
So we did not really move anything.
which has been the, the hang up on everything that goes over there other than mowing.
Okay.
And same thing, SISD needs to follow up with you. They're planning on it in terms of, cross-country.
About having the meet,
Yeah, for
yeah, just,
next school year.
right,
So
as
they
soon
were-
as they get a schedule and together, all they have to do is send it to me, we'll do it.
Yeah, 'cause they're quite excited when I was like, it's there, we can use it.
Yeah, nothing to it.
JD, that park looks really good. The guys did a good job mowing over there, Samuel North, really good.
Well, thank you. When we were cutting the middle section, the tractor broke down, so it's in the shop. So you kinda got a calico cut until we get the tractor and the bush hog back, so,
Thanks.
yes,
We
sir.
all thank you. It looks great. It was growing pretty
I
tall.
like that name, Calico Cut.
Yeah, the rain and the cool weather helps those weeds, so we're fighting them everywhere.
It looks great.
Thank you, thank you.
And then the only other thing, hopefully by our next meeting, we'll hear something, but it could be late November on the Rails to Trails grant. And again, when people are asking you, at this point, it's the grant and the plan is from Tripp to Nance. And then next year, it's in our budget, we're moving forward with the planning of the whole trail where we do all the community involvement and all that stuff. And we already have that matching grant, so. Get a motion to adjourn. Motion made by member Cash,
Second.
seconded by member Padmanabhan. We are adjourned at 6:40 PM.